Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Virtual Learning Week number 9 with Mr. Viveris. Excited to be here today. It is Monday, May 18th, 2020. Back at it again. We are, I think, approaching 30 total episodes of this great program that I put together for all you folks out there. And to kick things off, if you may recall from the previous episode, I had mentioned that my fiance has done some work with this poem we're working on. We Wear the Mask by Paul Laurence Dunbar, and she had to make a connection between this poem and a song. So what I'm going to present to you guys is that song today as our opening theme song. The song is Animal, which I remembered the title the other day, but couldn't remember the artist. And the song is called Animal by the artist, I should say, Mike Snow. So with that being said, let's kick it off with some Animal by Mike Snow. All right. Gonna let that fade out for now. We'll come back to some Mike Snow to wrap today's lesson up. I think I'm going to show you at the end the official music video to Animal by Mike Snow, because I think it really helps to capture the connection between We Wear the Mask by Paul Laurence Dunbar and his song. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the video actually shows Mike Snow changing masks. All right. And if you didn't pick anything up there between the connection between that song and the poem, maybe the video that he put together will establish that connection a bit more clearly. Anywho, enough with Mike Snow and Animal. As you can tell, Mr. V is a big fan of the song. If you have not checked out Mike Snow, he's got a bunch of really funny music videos out there that go along with all of his songs. But for now, I'm going to take you on over to the agenda and we'll get started, shall we? All right. So as you can see, it's Monday, May 18th, 2020. To start things off, we'll talk about the question of the week champions for week 8. So last week's question of the week champions, it came down to the wire. We'll discuss this week's question. Which superpower would you choose? Got some news for you regarding paper packets at Henry Lord Community School and Mr. Rogers' 2 Truths, 1 Lie competition. For the work period today, we'll be talking about day 6. We'll reread and annotate We Wear the Mask by Paul Laurence Dunbar. We're also going to review the poem using guided reading questions and watch a video review. And last but not least, we're going to take a look at previewing the assessment questions, numbers 1 through 5, the text-dependent questions for this poem. And just a reminder that tomorrow we're going to get to a new text, the third text of this unit, Soul Painting Inc. by Meg Bedina. All righty. I'm going to take you back on over to square one. All right. So hopefully y'all can see me okay out there. Not that you need to see me. That doesn't have anything to do with any of this, right? It's not about me. It's about the screens I'm showing you and all that. But anywho, let's cut to the chase. Question of the week update for last week. The question of the week champions are bing, 7 Harvard. 7 Harvard, you defended your championship, and you did it in a very honorable fashion. You guys had 12 engagements last week compared to 7 Yale's 11 engagements. So 1 engagement, that was the difference this week in the championship battle. Right now, both classes are tied, right? We've been running this competition for 5 weeks. Both classes have a 2-2-1 record, 2 wins, 2 losses, 1 tie. Let's see if 7 Harvard can retain that championship during week 9 for our question of the week of this week, which is which superpower would you choose? I'll show you guys that post in a moment. In regards to some news that I have, if you have not picked up a paper packet of the Phase 3 work, you can do so. However, they're not available at the Doran School. Doran is still passing out Chromebooks, however, between the hours, I believe, of 11 and 1 p.m. each day. If you need to pick up a Chromebook, please check in at the school. As far as paper packets go, if you'd like a copy of the paper packet, since you have not picked one up yet, those can be picked up between 11 and 1 p.m. Each day, Monday through Friday, at Henry Lord Community School, which I believe is located on Amity Street in Fall River, right up the road from me, actually, here in the South End. So that's some news, and the last bit of news that I can recall is Mr. Rogers' 2 Truths, 1 Lie competition. I have not put the post up on Google Classroom. I actually spaced it out. I was doing all my lessons yesterday and, scheduling all my posts. I forgot to include Mr. Rogers' 2 Truths, 1 Lie competition for this week. However, I will make sure to share that with you all after I complete today's video. With that being said, we'll move into day 6, where we're going to reread We Wear the Mask by Paul Laurence Dunbar. So I'm going to present my screen now. All right, looks like my screen is being shared. I'm going to take you on over now to We Wear the Mask by Paul Laurence Dunbar. So what I'm going to do today, all right, we read this text on Friday for the first time. We did some annotations, but what I've done today is I've reread the text, and you can see I've added some different annotations to the poem, and I'll go over those annotations with you all, and then we'll complete these guided reading questions, which you see here, before previewing the assessment questions, which are in this tab over here. Just a word for those out there that are participating online digitally, I have provided you with feedback on your pre-writing graphic organizer. If you have an opportunity, please check those out. Everybody has received comments that did submit, or even if you forgot to turn it in and I noticed you did some work, I provided you with those comments and returned the work to you. So let's get into We Wear the Mask by Paul Laurence Dunbar. This poem, again, was written in 1896. And just a reminder about our skill focus. The skill focus says, in this lesson, you'll practice analyzing an author's use of figurative language. This means paying attention to similes and metaphors. As you read, take note of the comparisons and the messages they reveal. So this poem can uses a lot of figurative language in the terms of metaphors and similes, which are when an author or the speaker of a poem makes comparisons between 2 things that may be unlike. So as we're reading, and you'll see with my annotations, we'll take notes of some of these comparisons and, kind of brainstorm the message that they reveal or what theme they help to create. All right, let's get into it, shall we? We wear the mask that grins and lies. It hides our cheeks and shades our eyes. This debt we pay to human guile. With torn and bleeding hearts we smile, and mouth with myriad subtleties. Why should the world be overwise in counting all our tears and sighs? Nay, let them only see us while we wear the mask. We smile, but oh, great Christ, our cries to thee from tortured souls arise. We sing, but oh, the clay is vile beneath our feet and long the mile. But let the world dream otherwise. We wear the mask. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back into the poem and I'm going to show you guys some of the notes I took on comparisons that the speaker of the poem is making. So the first comparison I noticed was here in lines 1 and 2. It reads, we wear the mask that grins and lies, it hides our cheeks and shades our eyes. So for these two lines, I said the speaker is making a comparison between how we appear in public, wearing a mask, and how we actually feel internally, because the mask hides our cheeks and shades our eyes. I actually have to make an edit there, because I noticed I misspelled. No, I don't want to delete it. I want to edit it. I noticed I had a typo there. Hides our cheeks, not our cheeks, and shades our eyes. So again, we're seeing a comparison being made here, between how we appear in public, which is when we're wearing the mask, and how we actually might feel internally, which is, where we're hiding our cheeks and shading our eyes, or our eyes and our cheeks are metaphors for our emotions. Let's continue on. This debt we pay to human guile. Now for this, I also annotated this. This is line 3. It says, the speaker compares the experience of wearing the mask to being in debt or an obligation for being dishonest. So this debt we pay to human guile, the author is making a comparison between the experience of wearing the mask and, to how it might feel when we're dishonest. Okay. Continuing on, it says, with torn and bleeding hearts we smile, and mouth with myriad subtleties. Now, to remind you, this line, mouth with myriad subtleties, it says, may refer to the many expectations for respectful speech, such as calling someone sir or ma'am. So even though, all right, thinking of this line, with torn and bleeding hearts we smile, even though we're smiling, our hearts are bleeding, which is obviously not really happening. What that is again, another metaphor, which I'm going to take a note of now, that compares our hurt feelings to a bleeding heart. All right. So we see with torn and bleeding hearts, we smile. Again, that's a metaphor there. The bleeding hearts, our torn hearts that's not literally happening. All right. What's really happening is our emotions are hurt, but in spite of that, we still smile and are respectful, is what the rest of that first stanza means. All right, let's take it into stanza 2. Now, stanza 2, you may recall from the other day, the speaker presents a question and then answers the question. So I didn't really notice any comparisons being made. So therefore, you'll see that I did not have an annotation for this stanza particularly. But it reads, why should the world be overwise in counting all our tears and sighs? Nay, let them only see us while we wear the mask. Now, upon further look, I'm seeing that the author makes a comparison. It says, in counting all our tears and sighs. Now, they're not really talking about our tears and sighs. The author compares, or the speaker compares, our tears and sighs to our hurt feelings. Okay, so it's discussing tears and sighs, but what they really mean is that why should the world be overwise or be aware of our hurt feelings, okay, or our hurt emotions or our suffering. Continuing on with stanza 3. We smile, but, O great Christ, our cries to thee from tortured souls arise. We sing, but oh, the clay is vile beneath our feet and long the mile. So I did annotate here, as you can see. I want to remind you that, but oh, the clay is vile. Vile meant extremely unpleasant, wicked, or immoral. So what I found here is that it says the speaker compares their internal struggles to a long journey. We walk around and talk as if everything is fine, but deep down we're hurting. All right. So we sing, meaning, we speak very happily, just like we wear the mask to cover our emotions in our face. We sing praises and speak positively to hide, perhaps the suffering that may exist within our voice. Okay, you ever really talk to somebody, you can just tell like they're really down and out of it. Their tone really changes. So what they're saying here is that we sing, but oh, the clay is vile beneath our feet and along the mile. Is again, we're making a comparison between our feelings and a journey. Okay. Last but not least, it says, but let the world dream otherwise. We wear the mask. Now, for this line, I said, but let the world dream otherwise. It says the speaker compares the world's thoughts to their dreams. Okay. So it's not literally talking about their dreams. What they're really talking about are the world's thoughts, or what people think about us. All right, so I'm going to take you now to the guided reading questions. Now, you can access the guiding reading questions online through commonlit.org. And like I had mentioned the other day when we did this for the mustache, it doesn't matter if you get the question right or wrong, all right? What this does is helps to track your understanding. So if you get something wrong, you can always go back and fix it and make the corrections that you need to make. It's not graded in any way, but it is a great resource to prepare you for the assessment questions, which is why I've added this tool to my reviews for you. All right, so let's go to lines 1 through 5. I'm going to read this again, and you'll see that there is a question at the end of each stanza. So I'm going to read it one more time. I'm going to stop for each question and then discuss the answer I came up with. So the first stanza reads, we wear the mask that grins and lies. It hides our cheeks and shades our eyes. This debt we pay to human guile. With torn and bleeding hearts we smile, and mouth with myriad subtleties. So it says, according to lines 1 through 5, what does the mask look like? So I know it's not A, right? The mask does not look like sadness and gloom, because the mask is hiding those emotions. All right. Remember this line here, with torn and bleeding hearts we smile. We're comparing our hurt feelings to a bleeding heart, and despite of that, we smile. So the mask doesn't look sad. The mask looks, the opposite of sad. Same thing goes with B. All right. Confused and distracted is not what the mask looked like. The mask actually would be the opposite of that, I think. I think it would look very confident and focused. And then again, also happy, thinking about the smile. You can see the correct answer here is happiness and joy. And again, I bring you back to line 4, with torn and bleeding hearts we smile. All right, that's a big line of this poem. So again, even though we're hurting internally, we still smile. So that mask we put on is, if you were to describe it as far as what it looks like, you'd say that the mask looks like, happiness and joy. Angry and upset, again, would be the opposite. Those would be the emotions that we would probably put the mask on for in order to hide the fact that we're angry or upset. All right, let's go to stanza 2. Sorry, guys, there's somebody playing outside my window. So stanza 2 says, why should the world be overwise in counting all our tears and sighs? Nay, let them only see us while we wear the mask. So question 2 asks, what purpose does the mask serve? Now, I want to remind you, we've kind of already discussed this with our response to question 1. The purpose of the mask is to hide our real emotions, okay? So to hide the emotions of the person wearing it. It's not to shade the eyes of the person wearing it from the sun. Again, that would be literally, if we took this poem, based on what it says, as opposed to thinking like, the author, again, is using figurative language, right? Literal language and figurative language are two different things. It tears the heart apart of the person wearing it. I could see why somebody might answer that, because maybe they were confused. Again, thinking back to the first stanza, with torn and bleeding hearts we smile. I don't think the mask is tearing us apart, or it's not tearing our heart apart. Again, it's a metaphor, as far as our torn heart is our hurt feelings. Next, it allows the person wearing it to be able to smile happily. Well, I could see why somebody might say this, okay, because what purpose does the mask serve? Well, yeah, it does allow the person to be able to smile happily, but it's not their true smile, right? The mask is the smile. The person that's wearing it isn't necessarily happy. All right, let's get to stanza 3. We smile, but oh, great Christ, our cries to thee from tortured souls arise. We sing, but oh, the clay is vile beneath our feet and along the mile. But let the world dream otherwise. We wear the mask. So for the third guided reading question, it says, which of the following sentences best describe the real emotions of those wearing the mask? Now, the real emotions of people wearing the mask are that they are suffering and sad, okay? I wouldn't say that they're confused or shocked, although, again, those might be emotions that we want to hide wearing a mask. But the poem doesn't really convey that idea. They are joyful and excited. Again, these are not the emotions that people have while they're wearing the mask. That's what the mask projects or portrays. Lastly, they are unconcerned and distracted. All right. Again, I would refer you back to how I explained my response to C. Although these may be emotions that they wear the mask to, because they want to hide the fact that they're not concerned or distracted. I don't see anywhere in the poem where that idea is conveyed. So I would say that the real emotions of those wearing the mask are that they are suffering and sad. Okay, they're having difficulty, living their life. Now, when I think about a theme, all right, hopefully you guys are listening out there because this is a big one because it's going to help you with the assessment questions. And when I think about a theme of this text, all right, the theme seems to be that people often behave differently in public than how they behave in a private setting. All right. So, we have a tendency to not talk about certain things. Everybody's got these quiet things that they don't necessarily share, that other people don't necessarily know about because people are not upfront with them. All right. We're constantly putting on the mask. And I think, like I had mentioned on Friday, one of the big reasons why we put on the mask is because as people, we realize that everybody has troubles. And we try to, put the mask on as a sign of respect. And now where I get that idea, if you recall from Friday, was right here in line 3. This debt we pay to human guile. So, we do this because we know other people have negative behaviors, and as a result, we continue to mouth with myriad subtleties or be respectful because we don't want to project our own problems onto somebody else. I'm sure many of you guys out there have probably been in this situation. Maybe you did not feel comfortable sharing something with a friend because you know that they were struggling with something that was far worse than what you were struggling with. So instead, rather than tell them, perhaps you decided to put the mask on, all right, out of respect for them and their feelings and their own struggle. All right, seems like we're moving pretty quick today. Before I get to the assessment questions, I do want to take you to the video, which I totally skipped over. I guess not really, because in my agenda it said to do the guided reading questions first. But let me get to the video I wanted to share with you all from Mrs. Reynolds, who actually shared this with me. So I just need to find it. We wear the mask. Oh, there it is. Let me open it in this tab, actually. This way I have the other tab open for more Mike Snow at the end. So this might take a second to load because I did not have this preset, but I don't think this video is all that long, but I'm really not going to say much about it. All right, I'm just going to let the video play out, let the explaining happen, and then we're going to go back. I'll preview the assessment questions and our lesson will be over. So I hope you guys out there, again, if you're watching this, listen very carefully. This video I was unable to post in Google Classroom. There were some issues as far as sharing the video because I'm not an owner. So if you are trying to access this video, you can still see it though if you click on the link in the student assignment tracker or click on the link in the lesson plan. All right, here we go.
Paul Laurence Dunbar was writing during the late 1800s, a very turbulent period in U.S. race relations. By that time, slavery had ended, but in the South, there was a major backlash against African American social and economic advancement, and lynching was a common form of terrorism. In the North, too, African Americans were denied equal opportunities in employment, education, and housing. Born and raised in Ohio, Dunbar was affected by these trends. His literary talent emerged in high school, but because of his race, he found himself unable to find employment equivalent to his ability. Dunbar's experiences, and those of many African Americans at that time, suggest a reason why the mask was such a powerful metaphor, or an object or image that's compared to something with similar qualities. The mask in the poem, We Wear the Mask, is for a social performance that African Americans would often put on to avoid negative consequences associated with telling the truth about their experiences with racial injustice or their feelings about it. Let's take a look at the poem idea by idea. The poem's first lines read, "We wear the mask that grins and lies. It hides our cheeks and shades our eyes." The we in these lines refer to African Americans, who grin because it's socially unacceptable not to appear content with their situation. For a bit more context, we might refer to Frederick Douglass's 1845 autobiography, where he explains why slaves always told white people they were content with their master if asked. Douglass says there had been incidents where a slave told someone that he wasn't happy with his master, that he was mean and so on, and thought nothing of it until he was sold without warning. This is the kind of situation that encouraged African Americans to lie about their level of contentment. The next lines read, "This debt we pay to human guile, with torn and bleeding hearts we smile, and mouth with myriad subtleties." These lines suggest that African Americans participate in a kind of game that the whole society has agreed to play, to pretend that African Americans were content when they had little reason to be. Torn and bleeding hearts suggests that the game takes a severe emotional toll. Mouth with myriad subtleties suggests that African Americans play the game not only with their conduct, but also with their words, telling people what they wish to hear. The next lines read, "Why should the world be overwise in counting all our tears and sighs?" There are two figures of speech here, a rhetorical question and irony. A rhetorical question is a question a person asks not to elicit an answer, but to point out the obvious. The speaker is asking why the world should know what African Americans were dealing with. If this were a real question and not rhetorical, the answer would be so the injustices can be rectified. However, the speaker knows they won't be anytime soon. That reality makes this line ironic, in that the speaker is saying something he doesn't really mean. The world should know and care about what's going on, but it doesn't. The next lines read, "Nay, let them only see us while we wear the mask." Here, the speaker resigns himself to the only viable solution, to keep showing people what they want to see. The second stanza reiterates the ideas expressed in the first. "We smile, but O great Christ, our cries to thee from tortured souls arise. We sing, but oh, the clay is vile beneath our feet and long the mile. But let the world dream otherwise, we wear the mask." Frederick Douglass is again helpful in understanding these lines on a deeper level. He says in his autobiography that many people assumed slaves sang because they were happy, when in fact the exact opposite was true. Slaves sang to relieve their sadness and express their anguish. They also used songs to convey coded messages about matters it was too dangerous to discuss openly. Dunbar would have been aware that African American singing had a long history of being associated with contentment and simplicity from the outside, but resistance and defiance from the insider's viewpoint. Let's now look at the tone and diction of the poem. Tone refers to the speaker's attitude toward his or her subject and is conveyed primarily through diction, which means word choice and punctuation. The tone of this poem is ambiguous. On the one hand, the speaker seems sad and frustrated about having to suppress his feelings about racial injustice. On the other hand, there is the slightest suggestion of defiance that playing this game requires a certain level of skill and emotional control that gives the speaker a limited sense of power. By showing others what they want to see, he's able to manipulate them. The word dream suggests people on the receiving end of his performance aren't living in reality, and the final defiant exclamation point create this impression. Let's review what we've learned. The poem "We Wear the Mask" was written by Paul Laurence Dunbar, who was writing during the late 1800s, when African Americans endured great injustice and abuse. The poem's controlling metaphor is the mask, which refers to a social game African Americans played in which they appeared content so as not to incur negative consequences, something also explored in Frederick Douglass's 1845 autobiography. The mask as metaphor has a long history in African American writing and social commentary. The speaker's tone in the poem is a mixture of sadness, frustration, and resignation about playing this game. He uses a rhetorical question in the sixth line in order to create an ironic tone, suggesting that he shouldn't have to do it, but there are few other options. Still, some of his choices in diction and the final exclamation mark at the end of the poem suggest that playing the game gives the speaker a limited sense of power.
All right. Now, that obviously took a much deeper look at the poem in terms of its historical context and when it was written. And all that was done, again, in an effort to really help you guys to understand that people often wear a mask to show that, they're content or happy and that everything's fine and dandy, when in reality, they are suffering and that they are sad. As you may recall from the video, they had mentioned that African Americans during the Civil War, those slaves, they sang in order to relieve their sadness. If you are not familiar or maybe don't know too much about music, there is a whole genre of music called the blues, which really, dates all the way back to those African slave songs, as many times they are referred to. All right, so hopefully that was helpful. To get us a little bit more back on track, we're going to now preview the assessment questions for today's lesson to wrap things up. So question number 1 asks, which of the following best describes a central theme of the text? So what's the big message? What's the lesson that we're all supposed to learn from this poem? So we have A, identity comes from what we do and are, not what we look like. B, social pressure can turn independent people into just faces in a crowd. C, being sad and upset by tragedy is okay, and people should not hide it away. Or D, silence allows people to stay strong in difficult situations, even though it does have consequences. All right, so again, we're looking for which of these answers would reveal the theme or the big idea or the lesson that we are supposed to take away after analyzing the poem. Question 2 asks, which of the following quotes best supports the idea of why people wear masks? So again, we're looking for the best evidence that would support why people wear their masks. We have A, this debt we pay to human guile, which is line 3. B, why should the world be overwise in counting all our tears and sighs, which is line 6 and 7. C, O great Christ, our cries to thee from tortured souls arise, lines 10 and 11. And D, we sing, but oh, the clay is vile beneath our feet and along the mile, lines 12 and 13. So again, we're looking for which piece of evidence here would best support the idea about why people wear masks. Question 3, why must the people that we mentioned wear the mask? A, the people wear the mask to protect their face and themselves. I don't think it's for safety purposes, guys. B, the people wear the mask because they are told to by the larger society. C, the people wear the mask to keep their identities a secret, so who they are, not how they feel, their identity as far as how they look. I don't think it's C. And D, the people wear the masks to hide their suffering. All right, so if you were listening closely there, I just cut down that response to you. It's not A or C, so you're choosing between B and D. Question 4, the speaker says, we sing, but oh, the clay is vile beneath our feet and along the mile, lines 12 and 13. What is the most likely interpretation of these lines? So what they want us to do is take that language and, make it literal. Okay, we want to interpret these lines. We want to put them in plain language so it's easy for us to understand. Now, before I get to the answers here, I want to remind you that for lines 12 and 13, I took a note. In my note, it said, the speaker compares their internal struggles to a long journey. We walk around and talk as if everything is fine, but deep down we are hurting. So maybe that's a pretty accurate interpretation that lines up with one of these answers. So for A, it says the people dislike the journey, so they sing a happy song to make themselves feel better. B, the people's lives are difficult, but they pretend to feel joy when others can see. C, the people are on a gross and muddy road, but they still enjoy traveling together. It's not C. D, the people have to travel a very long way, and the song helps them pass the time. All right, our last question deals with question 5. How does the poet use figurative language to develop the theme in We Wear the Mask? So again, this poem is loaded with comparisons. So for this answer, you should choose one of those comparisons that the poet makes in the poem and explain how that develops the theme. Now, it seems like, again, the theme of this poem is that people are much different in public than they are in private, meaning that people in public tend to hide their feelings, hide their emotions, hide their struggles, whereas in private we're a bit more open about those types of negative experiences, whereas in public we're always happy and content and everything's fine and dandy. So for this question, how does the poet use figurative language to develop the theme? We want to think about how the author makes comparisons in this poem to reveal that theme that we are different in public versus how we are in private. And I would just take you guys right to the very first two lines of this poem. I think would be great evidence to help explain your answer to number 5. All right. So with that being said, folks, tomorrow we are going to get to Soul Painting Inc. by Meg Medina. Sounds like a pretty good story. I'm about halfway through it so far in terms of reading and annotating the text, taking a bit closer look. I think you guys will really enjoy the story, as it, again, is really all relates to this question, why it is difficult to understand other people. And just to quickly preview that text tomorrow, it seems like there's a conflict between a brother and sister. The sister's name is Mercy, and the brother's name is Roly or Rolando. And it seems like Rolando has a deep interest in science that his sister Mercy doesn't quite understand. So we'll take a first look at that short story tomorrow. Before taking a deeper dive into that text on Wednesday, and beginning on Thursday, we'll start talking about the end of Unit 1 essay. So with that being said, guys, I'm going to take you now over to Mike Snow in his music video for the song Animal. And again, maybe seeing the video, seeing him changing his mask will help you guys to understand We Wear the Mask by Paul Laurence Dunbar a bit more. In closing, I will see you folks tomorrow. Again, don't forget, if you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe. If you want to jump into a Google Meet live session with me, I'm available daily from 11 a.m. to around 11:30ish, usually a little bit beyond 11:30, probably like 11:45. But until then, make sure you guys wash your hands, wash them, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody, and I hope that you found today's lesson useful. Let's get to the Mike Snow video, shall we? I like the beat to this song, just like the rhythm. I remember the first time I heard it, I was like, oh, this is unlike anything else I've ever heard in my life. And a lot of his songs are like that. And the music videos are pretty funny. There's one called Genghis Khan that I really like. And if you're a James Bond fan, you'll probably really like it. All right, I think this is the video here. Things are slowing down a little bit over here on my end. I apologize for that. And if you've already tuned out, oh well, you don't need to listen to this part anyway. This is more so for enrichment. I know I'm going to get hit with an ad that's going to be like wicked loud. Just waiting for it. Oh, Lord. Here we go. Sorry about that, guys. Again, you're like, I didn't even need to see the video, Mr. V. If you tuned out already, you've already checked out of the video, that's totally fine. I get it. No hurt feelings, guys. Yep, and I'm getting hit with an ad. I'm wearing the mask right now. If you can't tell, Mr. B's like, come on, I'm losing my patience, but out of professional behavior and out of respect to you guys, I'm putting on the mask and I'm just smiling away. Not going to let it bother me. Enjoy the video, guys. Wash your hands. I'll see you all tomorrow for Tuesday, May 19th episode. Have a great day. Dreaming, now I'm supposed to feel it up. Something in your eyes to see the eyes of somebody long ago. But I'm just
my mind up. Am I free or am I tied up? I change shapes just to hide in this place, but I'm still an animal. Nobody knows it but me when I slip. Yeah, I slip, I'm still an animal. There is a hole and I like to feel money, money. But it gets bigger to your heart. It's always running. In your eyes, I see the eyes of somebody who could be strong. Tell me if I'm wrong. And now I'm pulling your disguise up. Are you free or are you tied up? Change shapes just to hide this place, but I'm still an animal. Nobody knows it but me when I slip. Yeah, I slip, I'm still an animal. I change shapes just to hide this place, but I'm still an animal. Nobody knows it but me when I slip. Yeah, I slip, I'm still an animal. Change shapes just to hide in this place, but I'm still an animal. Nobody knows it but me when I slip. Yeah, I slip, I'm still an animal.
All right, guys. Until tomorrow, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Got a little dancing going on with my man here, Zeus. Don't forget, wash them hands, and I'll see you guys again tomorrow. Have yourselves a great one. Thanks.